What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to take a look back at The Last of Us Part 2. It is time. It is something that's been, feels like, years in the making for me. I played this game when it first came out, and I beat this game, I think, in 2 or 3 days. I just no-lifed it. I just played, I think, 8-ish hours every day. I do think it took me around 3 days to beat it back in 2020. Of course, this was a game that had so much around it. It leaked, a month before about the whole Joel thing. We'll talk about my updated opinions on that whole situation. There was just so much going on with the game. It comes out, obviously, it does really well, but it also, in terms of like critical reception, it's one of the highest reviewed games, point blank. But then also, you did have people that came out to say, hey, this is not for me. I don't care that it's getting 95s. I hate it. And you really had a divide that's lasted half a decade. You truly have had maybe one of the ultimate divides in all of gaming. Okay, so what did I think about it in 2025? Well, I went back in, and I think I more than doubled my play time, on PS5, because I played it, number one, I played it on hard this time. Normally, I play games on medium or normal, whatever the name might be for a game. This time, I did do hard because here's my takeaway from 5 years ago, okay? I remember not being impressed with the story decisions, being flat out mad with the story decisions, okay? But also just thinking it was a messier game. But then also thinking that it was one of the most incredible games I've ever played in my life in terms of the actual game itself. Movements, the combat, the AI. So I thought, okay, I remember that stuff. I have good memory 5 years ago. So I go in now and I say, okay, I'm going to play this game on hard because I really want to test myself. And I want to test the game. I want to almost slow the game down so I can really, if nothing else, because if the story doesn't land again, it is what it is. But what about the combat? What about the AI? Can I really take away anything new from it now? So, okay, well, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play it harder. I'm going to play on a harder difficulty. So I'm going to keep you waiting when it comes to the story and the creative decisions of this game. I do want to start with the visuals, with the technology, and with the gameplay. Okay, I want to focus on that first. So number one, this game holds up in so many different ways. And visually, I did not play the remaster, okay? I actually have Last of Us Part 2. I just bought it for my birthday in a few weeks. I bought it physically, but I had it digitally back 5 years ago, so that's what I did again. So this is not the remaster, Part 2 remastered, nothing like that. This was the base Last of Us Part 2 running, I guess, on the PS5 versus the PS4, okay? It looks so unbelievably good. Like, look, I play games every day. I've played, thousands of games and thousands of hours, okay? There were some times, I'm thinking in my head, specifically kind of towards the end, where Ellie leaves Dina to go back after Abby. And just like how they look, like it's unbelievable how good they all look. Like I've seen the actress who plays Dina, or the face model, I should say, right? Because those are two different people. The face model that plays Dina and then the actress are separate. But I've seen like the face model do videos and she does reactions and stuff. And it's like, that's just her. I'm just looking at her in this game. So, visually, whether it's the characters themselves, they all give such you may not like what they say and what they do, but they give amazing performances. The facial technology is unfreaking real. The visuals just by themselves, any of these locations, right? Pick Seattle day 1, 2, 3, pick it for Ellie, pick it for Abby, pick the farm, pick Santa Barbara, pick anything you want in this game, and you tell me that it doesn't look good. It all looks so freaking fantastic. The audio, I actually played most of this game with headphones on. I normally do not do that. That's probably the preferred way. I probably should do it because it really gets you into the world more, but I almost never do. I did it for this. The music is fantastic, but just the audio, like hearing clickers and hearing the Seraphites, whistle, even just something as simple as whistling, right? This game actually can get very scary at times, to be honest with you. The audio is so unbelievably good. And here's the thing. It gets deeper than me just saying it's good, right? Because the AI is so unbelievably smart that I honestly forgot. So again, I remembered that the gameplay just holds up. It's like, okay, this was a lot of fun to play 5 years ago. Having headphones on and being able to hear footsteps like coming from your left or your right is so very important when you're playing, on harder difficulties. Now, they'll shout sometimes, hey, go flank them. And it's like, okay, I got to start looking to my right. But, okay, this moves into the AI. This needs to be in more games, okay? Like, I really want to give Naughty Dog an unreal amount of credit. Because, again, look, you can like the writing, you can like the decision-making, or you can hate it. But one thing I don't think you can ever take away from them is everything I've talked about so far, including just the design. Now, I would say the level design, too, is so good. It's a little bit smaller than I remembered it being. Now, they definitely, this was the approach that was really started with Uncharted 4 and then, elevated when it came to Last of Us Part 2 of, okay, we're going to give you a little area. There's enemies, there's you, right? Handle it the way you want to handle it. And that was really started in Uncharted 4, right? Where it's like, okay, for the longest time, you're given one little area, and generally there's a way of doing it. And that was Uncharted 1, 2, 3, Last of Us Part 1. Then Uncharted 4 kind of changed some things, and Last of Us Part 2. I will say some of them are not as, grand as I remember. There's absolutely, any of the car kind of chase scenes, on rails, are very much derived, I think, from Uncharted 4, by the way, but they are so good. Abby at the end, going through the island attack, the wolves versus the Seraphites. Holy dear God almighty. It's just the lighting, the fire. There's so much going on in those scenes. They're amazing. But, I do love the design of so many of these levels because there's so many different ways of handling a situation. It's something that I'll still see clips on Twitter of people of just showing hey, Ellie's taking out a group of people and how you can handle it. I only did this once in the whole game, but going prone under a truck and I shot somebody's leg twice and they dropped to the ground and then you finish them off. You could do that 1,000 times, or you can mix that with other gameplay styles. I did it once. The amount of creativity that they give you with stealth and how you approach stealth, because again, there's so many, even vertically, horizontal, there's so much that's going on in any of these levels. Now, I do have some of my favorites, I would say when you're trying to go to the hospital as Abby with Lev in the second half of the game. Oh my, the high rise. Oh my dear God. That would have made the greatest Factions 2 map, by the way. It actually makes me very mad, even more mad we don't have Factions 2, because that's not just flat ground. You have to look to your left, you have to look to your right, you have to look up diagonally to your left, behind you. They could be coming below you, above you, anywhere. And it's it's so the attention to detail with the level design is so good. And honestly, one thing that I loved and I remember loving, and I actually think it wasn't in the game as much as I remember it being in the game, so I must have remembered it wrong, is being able to pit things against each other. Now, when they do it, it is spectacular. And that's, again, something I would have liked to see in a Factions 2. But I need that in not just more games, but also any future. If they do Last of Us Part 3, Intergalactic, whatever, I need things to fight each other, okay? I just love that simple mechanic. And I think the AI is so smart with, again, calling out directions to each other and stuff. Well, what about when they're fighting each other? When you can unleash an infected on a group of people, now they're distracted. Right? So now that throws everything out of whack because, they have their paths and you can kind of map them out and figure out how to get one away from the others and, take them out. But now you unleash an infected on them. Now everything is screwed up in the most glorious way. It's just fun. As Abby, you'll have the Seraphites and the wolves fighting, towards the end there, and they're so distracted on each other. I got 7, 8 headshots in a row. I was just going around picking one after the other off as Abby because they weren't focused on me. And it's just, I don't know, just the creativity there and how much fun it is to have your own strategy, but then also, the AI is so dynamic already, but then to have them distracted by something else makes it even better. It's unreal. And then again, there's just how the AI acts naturally. The big thing with this game, I remember especially, leading into it was name calling, right? Keith would die and they would yell out Keith. And it's it gets very, I don't know, it's very specific. When somebody dies, you'll hear somebody just call out Ashley or whatever it might be. You hear it so many times that it gets a little bit old, but I think not to diminish it because that was such a new idea. And to be honest with you, how many games still do that now? I feel it's just back then, 5 years ago, it was just The Last of Us, and still to this day is really just The Last of Us. It just gives it a little bit more personality. And I like how the game does that, because sometimes like these people will just be having conversations, and I'll be flat out honest, I didn't want to take them out because I wanted to hear like what they were saying. And I don't know if I ever felt bad. Definitely when taking out dogs, it's like if I could try to avoid a dog, I would, but man, those things are very smart on hard difficulty, and you take out the owner and that dog is just unleashed, so it's very hard to not take them out. But you know, I don't know about feeling bad. That's definitely something that is kind of in your head, and I would say that goes to that violence element, which we'll talk about when we get into the story. Like Ellie, you know, Abby is just like this machine, right? And she'll just like grab them with her huge arm and just choke them out and kill them, okay? With Ellie, and I mean, that's not an attack necessarily on Abby, I'm just saying like her style. With Ellie, it's stabbing him in the neck, right? And hearing them like gurgle, and then she like rips the knife out, like she slits their, I don't want to get too, you know, just for like YouTube purposes, but it's actually disturbing. Like not only, again, like they're trying to make a point. They're trying to make a point, I would say, with gameplay. I don't know how well that point comes off, which we'll talk about later, because you're killing hundreds of people or, you know, whatever it might be. When it comes to like taking out individual characters, like story, set piece things, they're clearly going for the theme of the cycle of violence and all that jazz. But when you're going through just the levels, like it is brutal. It absolutely is brutal. Does it stop you? Not really, but it's absolutely brutal, and I can appreciate that. And you know, again, it's kind of in your head where it's like, well, I kind of want to hear the story that these two people are saying, and then you know, you shoot one of them, and then like the other one will turn around and say like, well, what's going on? And they'll see like the dead body and say, oh my dear God. But it's so good. Like all of these elements are incredibly good. It feels great. I love the movement, the dodging, you know, hitting people with like axes or clubs or whatever it might be. I mean, that's extremely just satisfying, you know, how that works in this game as well. Crafting, you know, searching for materials and stuff. And, you know, that's something I did very, very much so, I would say, this time around. You had to, you know, because you get less stuff just in general, I believe, on harder difficulties. So I was going everywhere. I was reading as many notes as humanly possible. I was unlocking safes like Sly Cooper. I was doing anything that I possibly could. And, you know, again, it really, it makes you kind of, I think, appreciate the design and the layout of things, because some of these like vaults or, you know, locks in general, like they're hidden away. And, you know, one thing I forgot, the Take On Me, which is an incredible just story moment, how good it looks and how specific, you know, with her plucking the guitar, and they do it a couple different times, right? Just how it's such a good scene, just in general. I believe you can just flat out skip it. Like you don't even have to walk into that music shop at all, and you don't even have to go into that room at all. So like moments like that, which was one of the most iconic moments I feel like from the game, and you know, just from like what they were trying to do, I think Ashley Johnson did such a good job there. And then also just like the tech, like the literal tech of the guitar and her finger, like I play guitar, so it's like her finger placement and her plucking technique is so good, and it's so real, and it's like that you don't even have to do it. And so many of these things, you know, like I just said, how you handle different enemies, and you know, like blowing them up or like shooting them with a shotgun, like the mark it leaves on these people. You know, you can look at them, like you can look at the blood after you take one out, even stealth wise, and you can like see the trail of like what you did, right? Like it's very specific. It's very real. It's very, very real. But a lot of it you don't even like. I blew up a couple people the entire game, so like to see that technical performance, I only saw it a few times. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't even flex it all that much. Their flex wasn't even seen by me all that much, I guess I should say. So from the gameplay department, from the varied areas, from being able to handle a situation one way or throw it completely out of whack another, like chasing Nora and going into like the spore infested area, and they come down like with the hazmat, you know, masks and stuff, but there's also clickers, and like turning them against each other, so good. Some of the Abby stuff where you're turning, you know, two different groups of humans against each other. Santa Barbara, which I thought there was more infected versus humans, turns out there's really not as many as I remembered it being. But like from the gameplay angle, from the how varied it is, you know, Abby's is a little bit more like open fire, you know, she gets more ammo, and her literal first gameplay kind of moment is like that massive car, you know, kind of situation, or when they get kind of backed into the corner in the gas station and then they're saved by their own friends, right? Like Abby's got something a little bit different. I'll tell you this. When I first played it, like, again, my opinion on the story was what it was, but Abby, I thought, was the better to play as. Like, I enjoyed her sequences more. I think I'm actually kind of split, because she has, like, the bigger, I think, they gave her the bigger like set pieces, like the fight with the wolves and Seraphites, like that's probably the biggest thing in the entire game. The scope and like an entire island like on fire and all that jazz, it's hard to beat that in that way as Ellie. Okay, so you have that. You have her, going up to like the elevator and walking on like the wires, on top to get to the hospital. Like those moments and some of those levels that, come before and after, they're incredible. I honestly will say, playing it on hard, I feel like Ellie is actually back to like being like my most favorite to play as. It was Abby. Like, the first time you play, you wanna like Ellie and despise Abby, right? And it's like, okay, then they were trying to teach you to like think about it differently. The Rat King, like Ellie doesn't get anything like that, So I still believe, I said this back then, I'll say it now. I believe they really wanted you, even from a gameplay angle, to like the Abby stuff more. But I really do think it's actually kind of like a taste thing and also like a gameplay style, because Abby's is more kind of in your face and it's more aggressive and it's more like you can use guns because you're going to get more stuff just overall as Abby. You get like those pipe bombs that you don't have as Ellie. She's got like the mines, right? So a different kind of style. Playing it now and playing it on hard, I feel like I really liked the tactical approach, which is ironic because of what they've said like with the show's version of Ellie. But I mean, Ellie has to be, from the gameplay perspective, incredibly smart because her sequences are just harder. She's got the edge with like the knife, so she can take out clickers better than Abby, and I love that about Ellie, and I hated that about Abby when playing it. But like she just, I don't know, her sequences I think are a little bit more scary. You got to plan your approach. You really have to think about it, especially on the harder difficulties. So coming away from it now, gameplay I still think is a 10 out of 10. I still think from the tack and just from the like literal, okay, let's drop all of like the masks and all of this stuff. Just from like having fun, I think the game is an absolute blast to actually play. Like you're kind of tense when playing these levels, but you're just having a blast like planning it all out, nailing a headshot, when you got like 3 bullets left, and so you kind of have to make them count. Like it feels good. It's a really satisfying gameplay hook that they do, and they do, I think, do a good job at making these two characters feel pretty different for when they, flip-flop between both of them. Okay, now, in terms of the story, it's been so many years, people have said so many things, and one thing, people have, like, demonized people on either side, right? You love it, you're terrible, you've got no taste. You hate it, you're terrible, and you also, like, it's actually kind of insane what I've been told, even with my, I don't even think, controversial opinion. People have told me that I have, like, the worst taste, or I have a bad judgment of games, to which I've played thousands, because I don't get it, or I don't like it, whatever it might be. So I want to put that to bed right now. You like or dislike whatever you want in this game or any game, okay? I'm not here to tell you otherwise, but it has been a lot of that, okay, where it's like you're just like unsophisticated, you're uncivilized if you like it or if you don't like it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I enjoy the way that the story is and like what actually happens. I think it is still an incredibly depressing game, and it is one that I really don't know if like we needed to have been told. Like if we didn't get the story and we were just able to like play it, I think I would come away more like uplifting. It's just, look, playing through this game for like 16 to 20 hours, like it is hard because you lose one of the most iconic characters in all of gaming. Now, let me talk about it broad, and then we'll kind of go into, because I'm trying to give the game something. When I'm playing it, I'm really trying, okay, let's go into Jackson. Let's see. Let's really understand Neil Druckmann here. But from just like, okay, taking a few steps back, looking at it from like a wider angle, Joel Miller is an iconic character, and you kill him in the first like hour and a half, right? That does something. And then it's like, okay, now you have to grapple with the idea of Abby, and you have to like figure out how you feel about her. And there's a general instinct to feel something with her, and then the game is trying to kind of pull that back from you, throughout the game. But as a whole, it's like the game is also just depressing. Ellie loses herself. In fact, I mean, that's a theme that I don't really know how much I picked that up the first time, but the song that Joel plays in the very beginning, the song that Ellie always starts by stringing with the guitars, right? If I were to ever lose you, I'd surely lose myself, right? And and sometimes she doesn't even finish that line. And it's like, okay, that's the key. That is really the thread through really with both of them. That is the thread through the entire freaking game, right? If you were to lose the other person, the one that's so important to you, you would definitely lose yourself. yourself. And I think Joel would lose himself, right, if he lost Ellie. And in this case, you lose Ellie. And so it's like, and that's hard to grapple with. Throughout this entire game, you lose one of the most iconic characters in gaming. You also lose this father figure to Ellie and this guy that we played 10 years before, whatever it was, 7 years before. And we love them. We love those two together. And I'll tell you, like, playing through this game, my favorite scene, okay, my favorite moment of the entire game is when they go to the zoo / astronaut, like that whole arc. That is my favorite moment and 20-minute sequence of the entire game. And you know why? It's honestly because it very much felt like Last of Us 1. And I'm not really trying to say anything more to that than what I just did. I love that dynamic, because after that, like when they go to the music store or when they want to, right, to get the strings, like, there's just different layers and there's different like moments between those flashbacks of the two where they're grappling with like what Joel did, right? And it gets very heavy and it's important. It's absolutely important. And the ending we'll get to in a second, with him telling Ellie, like, if I ever had another chance to do it, I would do it exactly the same way. So like, I really just liked where they kind of let you breathe a little and say, hey, just go have fun with your dad, like just go and enjoy the dinosaurs and enjoy going into the, outer space and all that jazz like that. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful. But I really think part of the reason why I liked it, well, is the banter between the two, because Ellie is depressing in this game. Okay, that's one thing. Ashley Johnson does such a good job. It's nothing against her. It's the direction of the game. It's, it's life, I guess. It's if you lose Joel, this is what's going to kind of naturally happen to you. But it's depressing and it wears on you because Ellie is not the same as she was in the first game. And okay, it's been years, right? It's been 4 or 5 years. She finds out that Joel lied and that she was a cure and he robbed that of her, right? So I get it. I'm not saying I don't get it. I do get it. Again, just this kind of like natural instinct that I feel, though, is that it's very dark. It's very, she has a couple moments with Dina, mainly like Seattle Day One, where they're joking. And Dina actually brings a little levity to it, too, because she'll kind of joke and kind of lighten up the mood. And Ellie will sometimes go for it and sometimes pull back. I think like when they go into the music thing and Dina wants to be a drummer and they're making jokes about that, it's like, okay, it's not just classic Last of Us, again, not to like constantly compare it, but it's just this moment of like letting you breathe, because for the most part, Ellie, witnesses a very traumatic event, and she really is just this depressing individual for almost the entire game. And then even when, they go to the farm and like most of it's over, but she still has to go to Santa Barbara, she literally is like PTSD. She's freaking haunted by all of those events. So she's still not right in the head, right? Like she's still messed up. So like it just hurts. It hurts to see a character as good as Ellie. And I'm not saying like they made her necessarily worse. It's what happens to her. Like it makes her, to me, I would say less likable, on top of the fact that that's just like the outskirt stuff. What about like what she actually does in this game, right? She loses herself when she goes on this murdering rampage. Now, here's the situation, okay? Kind of jumping to the cycle of violence thing because I just feel like it's timely for where I'm at here. The one issue that I think comes with this all is like when you try to do that theme, you're relying on the cutscenes, okay? When you do the cycle of violence and what's happening with Abby, what she goes through with her dad, what she goes through with losing her friends, and the relationship with Lev and Yara, and then, all that jazz, coming back to Ellie, okay? And then Ellie going after all of Abby's friends, right? The issue I have with the cycle of violence, again, from like a instinctual thing, is like, okay, we just went through this entire freaking game, kill Abby, just take her out, and she won't do it. And in the process, by the way, Ellie loses everything. The cycle of violence is a very harsh cycle in general because she goes through all of this stuff. Dina leaves her, right? So she loses Dina. She lost Jesse because of that. She lost Joel. Tommy hates her. Ellie has no one, and she doesn't even satisfy that instinctual instinct to kill Abby because she lets her go, and in the process, she at the same time had lost everything because of it. So it's not really a matter of like understanding or like, because I actually think I do understand. Like the cycle of violence is like terrible, right? And you want to break it, or the whole point is Ellie did, at the end break it. But what does it cost? It's really the Thanos thing, right? Like, what did it cost you to break the cycle of violence? It truly lost Ellie every single thing she had. In fact, she even lost 2 of her playing fingers for guitar. Now, technically, you can play lefty, or she can figure out a different kind of like method of playing. Technically, it's not like game over, but I get what they're going for. She loses her uncle in Tommy. She loses her father in the beginning in Joel. She lost Jesse. She lost her love interest in Dina. She lost everybody, and she didn't even kill Abby. Now, I guess the one way of looking at that is, okay, it wasn't worth it, right? The point is to let go, and her remembering what she said to Joel the night before he died is kind of what clicked it. But again, just instinctually, it's like, so you made her go through all of that. She's a worse person because of it, but maybe she learned a lesson at the end. I guess technically you don't really know how she carries that with her through the rest of the game, but also like, look at what she did. And also, by the way, the cycle of violence, they both killed hundreds of people in their quest. And I think that's what you maybe get a little bit better with the show. It's just kind of different, right? Like in Ellie's quest to go after Abby in Seattle Days 1, 2, and 3, she killed like 100+ wolves, right? Like she killed so many of them. And by the way, this idea that like one random individual can kind of have this backstory that Abby's dad did, right? Like that, I get that. That goes, we've talked about it so many different times. I don't even know how much I want to spend in this video, but like, I'm still to this day not really upset with the idea of Joel being kind of like, stabbed in the back by his previous decisions. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, I do very much understand and can respect the idea that it only takes one person that you killed, and almost like a throwaway person, right? Now, this was a doctor, and, like in the first game, you can think about how that scene played out. It's a throwaway character. I guess it's not as throwaway as, like, say, a random person in Pittsburgh, right, when they were going through that arc. But a random individual can have this kind of spin-off where, okay, you killed a father, right? So now that girl is actually pretty smart, and pretty savvy, and has this group of people, and they're going to come after you and kill you. Like, that makes sense to me. Now, the issue is, Ellie did that to like 500 people on the way to Abby, and Abby did it also to 500 people during her. So this and that's kind of what you get in a video game, right? Like, it's one thing to say, hey, Nathan Drake's a mass murderer, right? Nathan Drake's killed like 1,000 people, but like the game doesn't really rely on those themes to carry it, so it doesn't really hurt it. Does that make sense? That's something I've thought a lot about, because it's something I like making that joke. Like, Nathan Drake should be in prison, right? Like, he has taken, and I used to be one of my favorite game characters ever, but not for those acts, right? He's taken out so many people. If Uncharted was in the Last of Us universe, then he would be hunted by God knows who from all of these people he's taken out. But the story doesn't really rely on what he's doing in the gameplay in that way. This game does. This game does, because literally it's telling you Joel, in all of his acts in the first game, he made that one wrong mistake that you don't look at as wrong at the time, and it comes back to bite you. Well, Abby did it too, and Ellie did it too. So it's like, to me, okay, what does it really mean to me? It just diminishes it to me. It's like, I can still get it. I still understand why Joel could die, and like, I wasn't really mad with him dying. I would kind of assume that Joel eventually, with his, being older and just the father figure in a post-apocalyptic game, his time was coming. I get it, but also stressing that cycle of violence over and over and over and over, and that's like, you have to follow that, otherwise it's lost, right? But also, like, the game itself kind of breaks that. Like, it doesn't help, I'd say, your cause in that way. So that's something I've always kind of wrestled with, and I just don't think that was done, all that well. Do I like Abby any more now than I did back then? I guess I would say a little bit. I find it hard to get in with Abby and her group, and I think it's just the game kind of playing from behind, at that point. It's, again, like, it's hard. I want to give the game, when I'm playing it, again, I'm trying to get in and saying, all right, let me freaking forget all of this stuff, and let's just really try to understand Abby. And I don't think Abby is an evil person. Like, that's the thing. That's kind of the split, where it's like, again, I think I understand Abby. I think I understand what they were doing with Abby, but there's, again, this instinctual thing where it's like, well, once you kill Joel, that's very hard to come back from like a wide, like, taking a few steps back and looking at it, that's hard to come back from, right? And then it's like, then also, you're playing as Ellie. Ellie is your friend. Ellie is somebody that you've also, like, grown up in gaming, loving. And then, okay, well, now you're hunting Abby, and then now you're Abby, and it's like, all right, well, you're playing from behind with like time because the first half of the game is Ellie. I've always said maybe you should have reversed it or had some Abby sections in the beginning of the game just to kind of get us like warmed. It would be hard because you'd have to like work on the pacing and stuff, but just to like, I don't know, because she's playing from behind. You're obviously playing very from behind with her as a character, because why would you want to play as her after what you just saw? And you're doing it after she's got Tommy at like gunpoint and she just killed Jesse. So she's killed Joel, she's killed Jesse, the father of Dina's kid, and then she's also holding Tommy, and she might kill Ellie. Now you have to play as her. That's hard. So you're already playing from behind, and then it's like, Mel and Nora and Owen and all the, like, it's hard to like them, or it's hard to even like give them time because you don't. And also, by the way, you play as Abby factually less. Like the first half is roughly 8-ish hours. You play as Ellie for about 8 hours. You play as Abby for about 6 or 7, and then you go back to Ellie again. So you do play as Ellie most, like 60-40. So Abby has less time, and you're trying to establish all these people that Ellie is going to kill anyway. Now, I will say, it does reinforce the whole, like, yeah, Ellie loses herself. Ellie is on this just murder spree, and, she's coming after, Abby's friends, and you kind of feel bad. You'd have, like, Manny has more depth than he's shown when he spits on Joel. Now, of course, you hate that, but then, you see kind of his side of things. Same thing with all of them, actually, right? You see a little bit more. I just don't know if that's enough to like make me say, okay, well, they're amazing characters. I love them, and I'm so defeated, when Ellie kills them. I will say there are the very harsh moments of like killing Alice, right? Like, taking out a dog is very hard, I think, in anything. So that's a rough one. And then also Mel, right? Like when you find out she's pregnant. But the thing is, you feel that as Ellie. I think you feel that as Ellie more than you feel it going through Abby's whole journey, because Abby and Mel have this rift the whole time where it's hard to really like land on either of them because they're always fighting. With Ellie, it's like, again, she's so blinded and she's going at it. And they attacked her, by the way. She just wanted them to point at a map, and then they attacked. So, okay, you kill both of them. And then, that moment where she starts to have like a panic attack that she killed somebody that was pregnant, that hits harder than anything they could have done, with Abby and Mel. So it's some of that pacing. I would also say, to kind of jump, like Santa Barbara, like the level is very cool. I like like the colors. I like the scenery. I think it's so different than what we experienced like with Seattle for most of the game. So maybe just that levity where it's like, okay, this is a little bit different. They rushed that. I mean, I don't even know what happened there. I mean, you have the big story moments and even the bigger like action-y things, right, where Ellie gets caught and roped up, and then she has to do that whole thing, and she purposely lets the clicker bite her to go after the two. Like, that's amazing. Like, I freaking love that. I remember that scene back in the day. I like it now too. So you have all of those moments, and they're all great, but it's like, they rush. Like, Abby gets caught, and months go by where her and Lev are captured, right? They're just there, and they try to escape, and eventually they get hung up, on the beach. And then Ellie just like, I understand, I guess, like Tommy kind of gave the tip off, I suppose, but Ellie just gets there, and they skip the journey there. They skip Abby being stuck there, and then you're just in it. You find them, and you resolve it, or resolve it the way that the game resolves it. So it's like, I don't know, that last hour and a half, I can see why they would maybe want to make like a couple episodes in the show dedicated to that, because I think you could do way more than what the game did. That just felt rushed, because I really liked the farm. Again, I thought it was heartbreaking, and I really liked the scene visually, but also emotionally, where it's like Ellie can't let it go. And I can, I don't know if I can relate, but I can absolutely understand, and I really connected with, like, when she's having the flashbacks to, Joel being hit, and those kind of moments, like, bring her back, and, when she's packing and Dina wants her to go back to bed. That whole sequence when they're talking is very powerful, right? Because Dina can't do it again, won't do it again, has been strong for Ellie, but Ellie literally can't let it go, right? She's got to do it. And there's something there where it's like, okay, I very much get that, and I'm with you there, and I'm with like the whole scene. Like, I get why Dina is the way she is. I get why Ellie is the way she is. So looking back at it now, do I understand the story like any differently or any better than the first time? I will say yes. I will say, like, I think as a wider scope, like, I get what they were going for, okay? And I also think, like, having 5 years and really trying to put that almost behind me and saying, all right, let me just kind of go into it almost raw. Like, does that give you a better chance to, like, reason with it and, like, understand Abby? Here's the thing. Here's ultimately the thing, okay? The first game is a father-daughter, the road type journey game, okay? It's actually pretty simplistic, and it works so well because that dynamic is so good, and that setup, the scenario, is classic. It's tropey, and it's been done so many times, but it's so good. This idea of a revenge story is honestly very similar in the sense that it's generic, it's simple, we've seen it done 1,000 times. I just think it's weaker. And that's it. Like, that's literally my stance on it. The first game is a simple concept, and I think it just works better. The second game is quite literally a revenge tale. And then Abby is like a war type thing where she finds a friend in need, and then she, and it's not even really showing any, like, it's just showing, I think Yara and Lev are there to show that she has a heart. Like, I really genuinely believe the Ellie thing is simply a revenge story, right? Now, how they set that up, and, you got to get the story moving. Ellie going after Abby, simple revenge story. Abby's entire story is an understanding of who Abby is, and please don't hate her. That's why Abby, I believe, has those segments. It's, okay, let's show you that she's also a real person. And I guess, okay, there's another part is Abby is very similar to Ellie, right? Like, they both lose a father figure, and look what they do. It's just kind of in reverse order, right? But Abby is like, okay, the Lev Yara thing, I mean, yes, tied with the wolves, tied with the Seraphites, tied with this war that they have going on in the Seattle area. But it's simply, I think, to show, like, okay, she has these rifts with Mel, and, she's kind of popular, but not everybody loves her, right? But it's like, okay, let's show that she'll go out of her way for these people that helped her. She'll help those who have helped her. She's not really, again, maybe a little bit like Ellie. She's not evil. She did what she thought she needed to do, but she's capable of showing compassion. I just feel like that's her entire tale is, well, let's show you that she's capable of compassion. And it's like, well, as a whole, I don't think, like, a lot of it necessarily hit, because it's like, it's a revenge story, and it's showing why the person you're going after for revenge isn't all that bad or is very similar to you. It's just not, to me, as impactful as the first game. They're both, again, very similar in they're not all that crazy. These are not wildly original ideas, but it's I guess the execution that drives them. Now, again, there's things here and there through both of these games that really make it stand out beyond the tropes. Okay, it's not just literally following a blueprint. Like, they definitely do some cool things. But that's kind of where I stand on it. I think it's a phenomenal game for so many reasons. I get so much of it. I just don't really think it lands as much as other people say that it lands for them. For me, it's like, okay, I get it. I understand it. And it's also just dark. I'm sorry. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, man, oh man, that's a tough one you have to decompress after playing that game. Because it's also just, again, depressing. Like, you start as Ellie, and when Joel's gonna teach her guitar, and it's like the 4 years earlier, and you say, oh, this is all good, through the flashbacks, you find out they've been fighting. It's even more depressing because they've been fighting for like 2 years. Ellie pushes Joel away, and they barely talk, if at all, for like 2 full years, okay? And that's where then part 2 picks up. It just so happens that then the night before he dies, she finally has this thing where it's like, okay, I'd like to try to figure out how to start forgiving you, right? And I love that scene. I think that scene is so powerful, and again, that kind of pulls Ellie out of taking out Abby, and maybe it resets her. That's what I kind of want to see a third game, just simply where it's like, all right, this idea of hope and this idea of forgiveness, like, it took you so long to remember it. Is that something that Ellie can take with her? Because the game makes it sound like, or seem like, she can take that with her, right? Like, it's a pivotal moment. We don't know that really until you play the third game, if there is a third game. So it's like, that had some hope to it. It had some optimism. It didn't really like up the vibes, because it was actually still kind of like, okay, she still is pushing him away, or they are pushed away, and it's like you just want to see them get back together because you love both those characters and you love them together. And then the whole game is just about her losing everything around her. It's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow. It is not an uplifting game until maybe that moment. Maybe for 5 minutes in this game, maybe in all, because of the flashbacks and stuff, it's got maybe an hour's worth of like where you feel pretty okay. The rest of the game is not a good feeling type game, and I don't know how often you could play a game like that. So there you go. I think my second longest retrospective I've ever done on this channel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.